Hey guys, Anthony for Before Diesel. This is some really important information. It's kind of going to be mainly around suspension information and installing suspension, and quite a few tips and tricks and bit of information there. But it also might include it, you know how I sort of go off topic and I've got, all this other information comes in. So what we've got here is a Kakadu. Right, so it's got airbags in the rear. So a lot of people inquiring about what they can do to get a 2-inch lift and suspension modifications. So this, I suppose you need to watch this if you want to know, even if you haven't got the airbags. So perhaps you know why not to have them and stick with the GXL. But look, if you have got the airbags or the KDSS sway bar, this is going to be information for those. So firstly, the springs from left to right are about 5mm difference in length, so it's not the usual part numbers for springs. So don't go and buy yourself a kit off Facebook Marketplace or eBay that suits a GXL that thinks works, because you'll have a lean then. By modifying these systems, you can be one of the unlucky ones and end up with a lean that's quite difficult to get rid of, or you could be like what most people are, fairly lucky when the right procedures are used. Now, when you upgrade your suspension, there's a lot of different options you've got, okay? So you can get a set of these from people that have upgraded theirs at low kilometers and replace with the same struts. But as I point out in general, this upright section here, right, it's not thin, it's good enough. It holds the weight of the vehicle, and even with a bit of pounding, usually they're okay. But see the welds? They're just a little weld on each side, if you see what I mean, right? It doesn't go all the way around. Aftermarket stuff, this is increased in size, and it's got a 360-degree weld around the bottom, okay? So a lot stronger at the front if you're bouncing around hitting the rough stuff, because these can bend and those welds can break, okay? The original ones. Now with other brands, we've seen plenty of Bilsteins where this actual section here cracks through here at each side as well. So probably happens with other brands as well, but seem to have seen a lot of Bilsteins, a lot of photos of them on online as well, broken. So look, to change the base upgrade is the struts and shockers will be the same as your aftermarket ones. Depending what you do for modifications at the rear, we'll get to the rear, we'll talk about the front at the moment. So let's just talk front only. What most people are doing, are going to remove and replace and put a aftermarket strut in, and I'll show you what we've got here to put in this vehicle in a minute. But up the top here, for the adjustable shock absorber, that's your, soft, medium, the comfort, the comfort, sport, whatever it is, I can't remember, I don't own a Kakadu. It's got like a 3 settings, soft, medium and firm if you like. It changes the valving. There's a little motor that goes up here, and it goes in the top there, and it kind of like adjusts the screw, and it changes the ride for the valving of the shocker. If you upgrade your shockers, you're going to lose that, and I'd suggest that's fine, because you put in a product that's correctly valved, and happy days. We can put in those Dobinson's remote reservoir 3-way adjustable, and then you can adjust them from about here anyway. But obviously you got to get out of the car. So you do certainly lose that luxury, but most people never used it anyway. So first, those motors, if you like, those modules need to come off the top there. So there's a plug, which you unplug. You can see the end of the plug's just here, it looks like that. And then there's a couple of small Allen keys to remove those on each side. Have we got those old units there? We'll just show them what we're talking about. Here we go. I'll just have a bit of a look over here. Here we go. There it is. Right, so that's what goes on the top. You can see the bracket as well. There's a nut that holds this down. I think it's a 14mm from memory. There's a couple little Allen keys that go in there, 4mm I think from memory. What you've got to be careful of is they're not full of dirt and dust, because if you don't clean that out, all that dirt out of those little 4mm holes, you could end up with quite a bit of drama by cross-threading those, and you make it hard to get out, because one's at this side and one's over the other side. So you get rid of that. You need to watch my other suspension videos if you want to see all the procedure on how to remove the strut. But basically what you're looking at is removing the bash plate, the sway bar out of the way, the tie rod end, as you can see here, that's the tie rod end from there. You need to be careful with these ABS lines. No need to undo any of that at this stage. That bottom bolt's going to come out as it's on the way out now. You can see it's kind of in progress. And the 3 nuts off the top here, not the middle one, the 3 nuts, and then that'll come out, and that's about to happen here. Let's go over here and have a look at the product we've got to replace it with. Product of choice is the Dobinson's monotube suspension, which the people that have got that in seem to be quite happy with at the moment. It's been very reliable. You can see the bottom of the strut, the upgrade. The strength there is second to none. And the bushes, the Robinson's bushes are really good also. One of the positives, you can adjust the height. So if you're not happy with the height, it's not easy to adjust the height. You need to take the compression off the spring to be able to turn those adjusters. They come with a tool, and you can raise the seat up and down to, you know, you can put them in. If you're not happy, you want it a bit higher, a bit lower, you add a bull bar or you take it off or add a winch, you can make that slight adjustment. As I've said, whatever height adjustment you want to change at the wheels, you need to change it half, approximately half at this point here, because what happens here is double at the wheels. So at this stage, that's what we're going to do. We're going to, we've got getting those out. These are going to go in. I'm not sure what else I need to tell you in regards to that, but I'll come back to you with some more information, more about the rear. There'll be some about the front, but there'll be a little bit more about the rear and some of the options with that. And those options are either changing, converting over to coil springs or doing some tweaking with the airbags, and that's what we're going to talk about. So sit tight, we'll get these struts out and these in, and I'll come back to you. All right, so still the front, this is the passenger side, same deal. All this has got to come off and get that strut out. Let's just have a quick peek around this side here. This one's out, so you can see what it looks like when it's out. There's nothing there. Right, just showing you what it looks like. Strut tower, pretty strong in these cars. We don't see them cracking. Of course, the harder you use the car, there's always a possibility. Yeah, there you go. The other thing, to make it easy to get at, you can take these bolts out. I'll just sort of go, take those two bolts in the bottom there, just allows things to move up and down a bit more. Don't pull on the rotor towards you, and you might pop that drive shaft out of the, well, you know, there's a tripod, it slides in that inner cup there, so you don't want to sort of pull on that too much, because it is just technically kind of like, there's nothing holding it from going in and out, if you see what I mean. See that? So just be aware of that. It's time to get this new strut in. Let's get it in. There you go, guys. So we're just slipping the new strut in, right? One's marked right, left. It says it on the label, but I just put a little bit of text there. I hope you don't mind. That's it. Once you get it sitting in, you put a nut on. That way you can release it and have a rest if you need to. That's the way to do it, so you don't get your hands dirty. Beautiful. Gloves on. Right, and you can just relax and take a breath before you then push the bottom down to slip the bottom of the strut in. And if your strut's been professionally assembled, it will be lined up perfectly and it will slot straight into that control arm slot there. Are you ready to have a go and see if you can slip it in there? Make it look as novice as possible, yeah? Make it look like a DIY thing. Alright, so the way to do it was, you know, you get the top in, just get the nut started so that, you know, you can let it go and have a rest if you need to. And then using a bar in a position like or similar to this, you can just lever that lower control arm down just enough so that slips back into position. Always being careful of that drive shaft boot there. You don't want to damage that boot. They're pretty strong, but just be careful anyway. Now we can get these three top nuts done up and get that bottom bolt back in, get this tie rod back on and get the sway bar reconnected. Alright, and Johnny is the gun. While all that fuss was happening over the driver's side, over here the passenger side, we're calling that left. We normally like to say near side, off side, so there's no confusion, because sometimes with a vehicle, depends if you look at it from the front or the rear, which is the left and right, I suppose, you know. But look, left passenger side, Johnny has got it in already. He's doing these nuts up and the bolt's in the bottom already, so the race is on. Let's see what happens. Who's getting it done quicker, left or right?
Where's my bloody tools? No wonder I'm falling behind.
That's because I'm using it first.
Oh, he's cracked it. Okay, so this is mainly back together at the front. You can see all the sway bars back on, tie rod in, split pins in. Don't forget the split pins, tighten everything up, double, triple check everything. This isn't so much an installation video. There's a bit of installation tips there, and we might come across some other information, but the main thing I want to say is what we're targeting, what the aim at the front on this vehicle is, because you've got a number of different options with the KDSS and the airbags. This is kind of, I suppose, a bit to do with the airbags. So with just the KDSS on its own, then it's pretty straightforward, because you don't have to tweak or change anything with these airbags. This is probably more to do with the airbag side of it. So you can do a conversion where these airbags, so just to be clear for the people that are unaware, some of the higher spec Prados like the Grundes in the 120 and the Kakadus in the 150, they're actually riding on air. There's no coil spring here. So it's not a spring with an airbag inside of it. It is actually an airbag. See that? It's got air in it. That is air. And that's just a cover over it, right? And that just sits on top of the diff. Now you can get a coil conversion spring that replaces that. So that's something that you can do. We've only ever done those on the 120s. We haven't done that on a 150. On the 150s, for people that want to keep their air riding on air and that sort of thing, and it can be a bit unreliable because on these ones, I'll try and show you. This one's not bolted down. This is before. Okay, oh no, it is. There it is. There's the bolt, right? So the base there. Hang on, let me just make sure. No, that's actually it must be a few different ones of these around because. On the 120s, yeah, this is, what year is this? 09. This must be before they changed it, right. So see that little, that's just the bottom, that cup sitting through the hole. And what people used to do is drill a hole through there, or they used to either tack weld it there or drill a hole through there so that that didn't lift up and go that way out the hole while the vehicle was out on the tracks. But the later ones, they had a nut there. They changed it. They put a nut there. But the problem is that holds the bottom down, and the top, it's only got a really small token gesture clip holding it in place, which I probably can't really show you. That would be way too hard. So look, if you want the ultimate reliability, some people do the conversion and get rid of the airbags and put coil springs in. If you want to keep the airbags and you want to keep it as reliable as possible, you need to make minimal modifications possible. So I'm going to give a few pointers here, and what that means is, one of the first points is, keep the standard length shocker. So the shocker's over here, that's the shocker there, right? You don't want to get any extra travel, because if you have extra travel, if this axle could come down further than what it did, then there's a chance that that could lift out. You know what I mean? And if you fix that bottom section there, that bottom pin there that I showed you before, if you fix that in position, then what happens when you flex up, that bottom part here, it stays down with the diff and it pulls on the top up there. And as I said, it's just a very small token gesture clip. And what happens then is, it not only rips the clip, but it can also bust off the airline, okay? Because it's a small airline. I don't know if you can see it. I'll hold it still. If you look through that gap up through there, you can see the airline. It's quite small. I'm not sure if the light's shining up there that well. I'll go up there a bit closer. Let's have a look. Right, there it is there. And that actually can rip off and bust off, and they're like, you know, 50 or 80 or 100 bucks each or something, you know. And the point is, you're on your bump stops, right? That's your bump stop there, hitting on the diff, and you can see that's been happening with this one already. So because this is an 09, at the moment, what's happening is, we've raised the front of the vehicle approximately 30 mil. We're going to measure that. We're going to confirm. We're about to drop it on the ground. Just wanted to show you what's happened and explain a little bit before we do that. So we've got a spring and set it up for approximately 30 mil lift. Doesn't matter, more or less thereabouts. Then we're going to decide what we're going to do with the rear. If for some reason the front's about 20 or 30 mil, that's good. That means we just make a very small adjustment at the rear, so the vehicle sort of sits level or slightly higher at the back than the front. So to do that, you can adjust or bend. I'll go to where the sensor is when I can find the best angle on the right side of the car to show you, to get to it, to adjust it. And it's probably that one there. Let's have a look around this side. I can't even for the life of me find where it's at the moment. Where's it? Where are you hiding? Where are you hiding? There's got to be two sensors. Maybe not. There normally is. Can't even find it at the moment. Where is that sensor? Normally there's two sensors. What is going on here? Maybe there's not on a KDSS. Yeah, no, it's not right. There it is. It's hiding up there. Of course there is. See? It's been a while. Right, so there's the other sensor. Now there's a couple of adjustments. One is you loosen that nut and you can slide it on that rod there. Right, so you can loosen this nut, slide that up and down there, and you can, looks like you can adjust the length of that rod as well, right? Well, the other thing you can do is, see these brackets, they're quite thin, you can just kind of like grab these brackets. See that? See how it just bends pretty easily? You can see it's changing it. So if you can't get the adjustment out of it here or there, or it might be easy just to grab that and, you know, bend it up or down, whichever way. I'm not thinking that hard yet because I already had enough trouble finding the sensors, didn't I? So you've got to basically tweak that a little bit. So say the vehicle from factory, I'll just get around here for a minute. You can have a look at the back while I talk to you. If the vehicle came out from factory, let's say it was measuring from the bottom of the wheel here, because you can get a firm line on the bottom of the rim, right, to the top of the guard, that's right there in a vertical line directly up. Let's say the rear's 780 and the front 750. That's about a 30mm difference, and generally that's what the GXLs are, and that allows for, because it looks silly if it's lower at the back, right? You don't want to load it up and then it's sitting lower at the back, so they allow for that. Now, the positive of the airbag system here is when it's sitting on the ground, doesn't matter how much weight we put in the back, it stays at the same level because we've got the sensors there that I showed you once I eventually found them amongst all this stuff hiding up there, wherever they've gone again, hiding again, you know, around there anyway, it's around that side, right, hiding. The sensor moves 5 or 10mm. The compressor pumps it up and puts more air in these airbags and brings it back to that height again. So it doesn't matter how much weight you got in there, it stays at the same height. So what we want to do is, if the front goes up 30mm, we don't need to keep that 30mm difference. We don't really want it level, but we want it a little bit higher at the back than the front. I'd be happy with a 10mm difference. So if the front goes from, say, 750 to 780, then we want the rear to be, say, 790. So we're just going to tweak those sensors a little bit, whether it's adjusting those nuts, tweaking the brackets a little bit. We're going to adjust those sensors a little bit to get the back to sit at the correct height compared to the front. And because we haven't modified it much, if it's only approximately 10mm, then you can still use the high button, okay? Because the suspension, it's got height button, right? Low, medium, high, or low, medium, normal, whatever it is, you know, the 3 settings, like the one that's got soft, medium, hard, you know, I don't know what the words are, but you get my picture, right? So you can go up to high. As soon as the vehicle hits 40 k's, it goes back to the medium setting anyway, right? If you haven't modified this much, you can use the high button, okay? The risk is, if you were to raise the front by, say, 50mm, and then raise the back by 50mm, you've made quite a large modification to these sensors and the setup at the rear. And if you were then press the high button, it may not be able to go all the way to high, and the compressor might just keep pumping that much air into these bags till they explode because it's not getting to the height. Or maybe there's something in place that stops that from happening, I don't know, but I'm just trying to say that if you go too high on your neutral setting, then you shouldn't be using the high button. So if this vehicle ends up sitting, say for example at 50mm, wow, this is really high, it's higher than we planned, what we can do is, in conjunction discussing it with the customer, which we've already done, if it ends up being too high, what we can do then is just adjust the rear up even more. So modify these sensors even more to get the rear to sit 50mm higher as well. And there effectively the whole vehicle's got a 2-inch lift, and tell the customer don't use the high button. Just forget that it's there and don't use it. Okay, so there's 2 options there, right? So there's really 3. You've got your first option was get rid of these bags and put springs in, and you're back on springs again. That would be the most reliable. If you want to keep this system, you can go a little bit lower with a minimal modification at the back, or you can go quite high at the front and modify it a lot at the back. People used to use washers and stuff and put them under this bracket here. Take those bolts out and put washers under. It's just silly because you can see how flexible those brackets are. Well, it's a bit hard to show you at the moment, but they are quite flexible. They're easy to bend and trick into position. So you can do it whichever way you like. You get my picture. The only other thing to take into account is, because this is KDSS, there is a procedure to neutralise the sway bar, and that is you come along the side of the vehicle here. There's normally a guard over it. The guard's been removed off this one. There's a couple of 12, were they 12mm, were they? I'm checking my memory now, were they 12s, yeah? Okay, so we removed the cover off here, and yeah, there's a procedure where we're going to put the vehicle on the ground and open those up a couple of turns and bounce the vehicle around a little bit and let it sit for a while. And that is supposed, and I say supposed because these things don't always work as they're meant to, usually. And there's a couple of different write-ups on the procedure on how to do this. So I haven't done this one for a couple of years. So from memory, these are 10 mils. You loosen those off. They say two or three turns. I'd suggest it doesn't matter much. They're just like a bleeder. Let's have a play with it, and I'll come back to you with a bit more information. That's what we're going to do now, and I'll let you know what part numbers we've used, what parts, and where this one ended up sitting. So hopefully it's helpful for you if you decide to do this. If you want to keep a vehicle's airbags, okay, if these are going to get kept, and I'm not saying they're going to get kept long term at the moment, we're doing just the front and to see how it goes. These eventually get brittle, old and brittle. The rubber deteriorates and it gets little cracks in it, and they can leak down slowly, and then the compressor overheats and times out. So if you're going to keep a vehicle with airbags, I recommend replacing them every 8 years to prevent being caught out on a trip. Because what happens when you go on a trip, you load up the vehicle, it puts more weight. More weight, like we said, means more pressure. The compressor pumps more air in. Then the leaks get worse because there's more pressure, and then you end up on the bump stops because the compressor's timed out because it overheated. All right, guys, we're going to have a bit of a play with this, and some more information coming your way soon. Okay, so we've got the vehicle back on the ground, and we've taken some measurements, some base to start off. You can see it seems to be sitting quite low at the back. The measurement, this is an 18-inch rim, take that into account, was 787, right, 787. And it's sitting a nice height at the front, what we wanted, not too much. We weren't chasing a massive lift, and I believe it's sitting at about 796 or 798, somewhere there, pretty close to 800, and fairly even both sides within 5 mil, which is really good. So we're quite happy with how the fronts come up. What we're going to do now is put the vehicle up in the air again and adjust those rear sensors that we talked about to raise the back only about 20 millimeters so that it ends up 5 to 10, look, either side of 10 mil higher at the front than the back of the vehicle. Then we've made minimal changes, and hopefully then it doesn't affect the KDSS too much. It doesn't affect any of the other systems, and we can still use the high button. Let's get it up in the air and make an adjustment, see what happens. All right, now if you adjust the rear sensors and you go the wrong way, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to get even lower at the back, which kind of makes it look like it's high at the front, you know. It's pretty cool. So let's adjust the sensors the other way and see what it looks like then. All right, so this is the sensor adjustment on the driver's side, and for demonstration purposes, of course, if you slide it all the way down, okay, you can see where it was, the dirty mark, all the way down is the wrong way. You need to slide it all the way up. So we've demonstrated that. Same at the passenger side. So we're going to slide it all the way the other way, and we're going to drop it and check it again, and probably that's to its maximum adjustment. So without upsetting the adjustment in this rod here, what we'll do is we'll give the bracket itself a bit of a tweak. So let's get these shafts adjusted up to the other end of the adjustment here first and take it from there. Oh, that looks good. It's not on the ground yet though. It's going to go low. Once we start the engine and allow the compressor to pump up, let's see where it sits. Mate, can you sit in the other side to even up the car? No, I'm just joking. Okay, let's see, it's pumping up. Heavy weight's just got out of the car, it's still going up. It's a slow process, be patient. That's to the maximum adjustment, okay? Still going up, I think. I think it stopped right there. Would everyone agree that it stopped going up? Okay, let's take a measurement and see what that's at. So it's not bad, but we're just going to give it a bit more of a tweak. This time we're going to give the sensors a bit of a bend to get a little bit more height. We're just going to tweak the right-hand rear because we're fairly happy with the left-hand rear at approximately 815 with a standard height. It's just this one at this side we want to get a little bit more height out. Not that much, but a little bit more than what it is. Because it's got Kakadu, it's got the high button, so we don't need to be super high, because when the tracks get a bit tough, you can hit the high button. So with this vehicle, we've got just under 800 at the front, which is with 18-inch wheels, which is about the 785, 790, in my opinion, fairly ideal. At the rear, it's just a few millimeters higher than that. It varies every time you put it up and down and change heights. It's a little bit different. That's what these do. So don't be too pedantic about it. The vehicle visually sits very level, so I'm happy with that. The height's quite safe. We've done minimal modifications to the airbag, the sensors. So when using it off-road, it should still be reliable and you can still use the high button. So it's sitting at about, what was it, 813 or something, was it? What was it at the back here? Something like that. So it's a little bit higher than the front, and it doesn't matter because you're on airbags. When you add the weight in there, it's going to pump it up and bring it back to that height. So it's never going to be in a situation where, like in a GXL, where the rear could end up lower than the front, if you know what I mean. When you hit the high button, it goes up an extra roughly almost 2 inches, so it's up over above 850, which is really like a 3-inch lift when you compare to a GXL. So this vehicle, it's very reliable setup still, and it's still got the high button that gives it really good clearance off-road, which is what gets your tanks up off the ground. Maybe, I was going to say maybe we'll pump it up and show you that, but no big deal. So look, that's the setup on this vehicle. The Dobinson's monotubes in the front with the, what was the coil number again? I'm trying to remember. We went for the 722s, was it? The 722s, which is I think equivalent of the 300s on the GXL, which sort of is about a 30mm lift usually without any accessories. If you've got a bull bar, you want to go at least for the 724s, and if you've got a winch and you want maximum lift, you're going to need to go for something like 726s. And yeah, still on the, as I said, still on the airbags in the rear. I'm not sure if Dobinson's do a conversion coil for the rear of these. I think Kings do, definitely on the 120, but I'm not sure about the 150. So this vehicle is going to see how it goes and then make a decision whether to replace the airbags with factory ones, with something aftermarket, or perhaps convert over to coil springs. We'll see how this goes. All right, guys, hope that's been helpful. If you got something out of it, don't forget to give us the thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe, turn the bell on so you don't miss that next important information message. Thanks for watching. See ya. A little bit of feedback with these. If you're upgrading your suspension, you don't just need the replacement struts or coilovers and the coil to get the lift you want. You also need to replace the top hat or the strut top. See this one, how it's got a fairly flat profile. You need to upgrade to the one that's like on the GXLs. They've got a bit of a raised hat anyway. I mean, look, if you don't know what I mean and you're after some suspension, you can shoot me a text message and say, hey, you know, I want to get one of those suspension kits, and I will contact you and we'll have a chat about it, make arrangements for you to complete the purchase. The other thing I wanted to say is the original struts, how good are the bushes? Right, this is 11 years old. It's had the whole weight of the vehicle on it for 11 years, and it's still in that good condition. So the original suspension I do like, but if you're not sure, it is a wear and tear item. You can't see the wear. We can actually see a little bit of wear on this. Just the dust, but it's been rubbing up and down on it, but you can't really see the wear, and it happens slowly, so you don't notice it sort of fading out slowly. And once you replace it and upgrade it, it'll feel a lot better. One of the things I like the least about the stock suspension, as I said, that upright there and those welds that aren't there, they can break and bend. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that is definitely the end of the video. Thanks for watching.